team code 4. And is that for
That's fine.
the
4,
prosecution?
yes, 4 is for the prosecution and 3 is
4, okay. And then, sorry, my computer does not like opening links. Did I receive one from this first roster, team code 4 is for the plaintiff?
Yes, and team code 3 will be in chat. Just give me a moment.
Okay. Oh, the second one's your updated roster. Sorry. So toss the first one. Are our scoring panelists able to access that roster from the link?
Yes, Judge. And just to make sure I'm looking at it right, the opening for the plaintiff or prosecution is going to be given by Katie Hunter. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Here we go.
I lost my score sheet.
All right, team 3 for the defense. McCready giving the opening.
Mr. K, do you have your score sheet?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I had it. I clicked it, and then it's kind of disappeared from.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find it again.
Do you see the chats over on the right-hand side?
Let me. All right,
there's-
I'm going to expand this again. Okay. So chat. Yeah, chat.
Okay, I'm going to send you a direct message with a link to the score sheet. Hopefully that works.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got it. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so. Got it. So I just keep it minimized.
Yeah, if you have a second screen, you can put it over there, or you can make it smaller or move it around.
Okay, let's try that. I want to do it again. Okay.
Are all members of the prosecution present?
One of our members is having internet difficulty. If we could just wait a moment.
Okay. How about all members of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, I will watch the, for those attempting to join the meeting and make sure I let them in promptly. Who is it?
Her name is Paisley.
Okay. Yeah, I think I let her in once already. She might have gotten bumped out. So, okay. Mr. K, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I found it. Okay, great. All right.
If push came to shove, if you had to print it and fill it out by hand and then take a picture of it and text it or whatever, we could do that too. But it really works neat. And I haven't had any problems with anybody but presiding judges from the courthouse submitting it.
Oh.
Sorry. Our firewall, it only lets spam in. It doesn't let us get anything we want out.
Oh, I see what you're doing there.
I'm going to step away for just a second. I'll be right back.
Can you stop that?
Now, I wasn't supposed to open a YouTube window or anything like that, was I, counsel?
Ooh, YouTube.
Ms. Burdick or anyone else? No?
I don't
If you
believe.
had coaches or family that wanted to watch, I wanted to make sure I wasn't shutting anybody out.
Judge, I
We're
think
good?
I think Jason was taking care of that.
Okay, perfect. That's the answer I wanted, Mr. Hurwitz. Perfect.
Team 3. Judge, is the when they say the witnesses, are they witness one, like is Avery witness number 1 and Taylor witness number 2?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor and counsel, I apologize, but my video is not working at the moment, so it will be off during this trial.
And I could not hear who was speaking, so we'll work with that, right? I'm only seeing in my gallery view Ms. Burdick, Ms. Hunter, Ms. Innocente, Ms. Adams. Am I missing other, I am missing other participating
I believe that you
attorneys
may
who
have,
don't have their camera on yet?
I believe you may have non-video participants hidden, and that's why you can't see anyone else.
Oh, I do have non-video participants hidden, so I should undo that?
So that's supposed to help with bandwidth. So whatever works best for your internet should be fine.
Can I ask you a question? On team 5, I don't have their people. Do I look under chat to find them there?
It's in chats, yeah, and they're actually team 4 for the plaintiff. Do you see the chat from Ms. Hunter, who sent the link.
Oh, it's team 4, not team 5?
Correct.
Dan, it's team 4, and one of the students sent a PDF that's got their team roster. It's the second
Oh, team 4. Oh, yeah.
4, 2, and 5
Okay.
combined. That's the one you want.
Oh boy.
Now,
I'm not
who is
doing
the
that.
student that will not have a camera?
I'm sorry, council. It's me. I'm on C number 3, Kayla McCready.
Everybody sees a Caitlin McCready in their participant list. She will not have a camera. We'll just have audio for her. And so at this point, we're waiting for one more participant.
You know, I'm still having trouble because I had asked me to download their roster, and I just want to see it on team 4.
Yeah, I think you have to download it.
Oh, I have to download it. Okay, I'm gonna do it on this computer. Oh, I gotta find it. Where in the hell did I download it? Oh my God. Jason, I'm so stupid. All right, so I downloaded it and then I can't figure out where I downloaded it to.
Well, look, usually when you download something like that, it'll be at the bottom left-hand part of the window.
Or check your download file.
Okay.
Now, the prosecution, which role does the witness that we're waiting, or witness or attorney that we're waiting for play? Can we get started without them? Can they join some other way? How should we handle it?
At the moment, they are, I believe, trying to join on their phone, and we are also missing an attorney. However, the witness, I believe, plays witness number 2, and the attorney doesn't direct until that witness.
Okay. Well, we'll wait a few more minutes, but I'd like to get started at least at 4:30. And then I'll watch this and I'll make sure that I let them in. Okay.
And we're good with the timekeeping. Plaintiff has a timekeeper. Defense has agreed one of your witnesses is going to be the timekeeper. And then you will post in chat when you're kind of counting down the minutes. 2 minutes left, 1 minute left, 30 seconds, and then countdown. Has that been working for you in this competition so far?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, great. I'm just very concerned about that because, to be honest with you, the college mock trial I was judging this weekend, they didn't do that, and it really caught some of their fellow competitors off guard. It just didn't seem fair. So I just wanted to make sure we're getting those times posted in chat.
I apologize for my stupidity, but can someone send me a screenshot of the of their
Dan,
score page?
I'll email it to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm pretty sure I've got your email. Let's see, hang on.
And just of team plaintiffs, plaintiff 4.
Yeah, I don't seem to have your email. You want to send me your email in the chat section, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, or I could just give you, you could just do a screenshot and text it.
Sure. Okay.
Do you have my cell, right?
I do. Now you're expecting me to know how to do a screenshot. And thank God you got these students are the future, because technology is clearly not our forte. Actually, you know what, Dan? I didn't write yours down.
It's 719-330-6832.
Okay, give me a sec. Did you get it?
Oh, let me check here. Just got it. Great. Thanks, Avery. Perfect. All right.
Okay, just a reminder to Mr. K and Mr. Hurwitz, once the opening statements start, make sure you turn off your video and turn off your microphone, and you can turn it back on when the trial concludes. Danny, do you know where that is on your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll get off there right now.
Well, no, you don't need to now.
Are we giving intros or?
Yep, we haven't quite gotten there yet. Are we still waiting, Mr. Downey, for?
It's past 4:30. Let's go ahead and get
Okay.
started. It sounds like those attorneys are in later roles. I know the prosecution from their coach has indicated to me that they don't have a problem if the other side needs to substitute people in, or we need to handle it on the fly. So let's get started, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is Judge Billings-Vella presiding. Is the plaintiff ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to begin by asking each side to give attorney and witness introductions and address any pretrial matters you wanted to before we begin with opening statements. First, for the plaintiff.
Your Honor, may we address some preliminary matters before we introduce ourselves?
Yes.
Let the record reflect teams have exchanged copies of rosters and case materials.
Shall?
Your Honor, we request the court's preference on redirects and recrosses.
I'm typically of the practice to ask if there's any redirect, and if there is, then I'll ask if there's any recross, just on those matters brought up on redirect. If I neglect to do so, don't hesitate to ask the court for permission to redirect.
We recognize that sound quality and internet connectivity may vary, and if at any time sound quality makes it difficult to understand, that the court pause proceedings to allow witness or attorney to repeat their question or answer.
Of course.
We request that timekeepers be allowed to post time remaining in the chat throughout the trial.
Yes, please.
And lastly, we request remaining time for prosecution closing argument to be reserved for rebuttal.
It shall.
No further preliminary matters.
Thank you. Then if you'll introduce your attorneys and witnesses, please. We want to make sure we've got that properly noted in our scoring sheets. I'm not hearing you, Ms. Hunter, if you're speaking.
Allow me to state my statement. My name is Katie Hunter. I will be directing Kyle Kuzak and now Alex Cifuentes because our attorney won't be able to make it. I will also be crossing Avery Becker and Taylor Perkins. I will be giving the opening and closing statement.
So it's Ms. Amati who's not able to make it?
Yes, Micah.
You're stepping into there. Okay, got it. Or Micah Amati. All right, thank you. Did co-counsel and witnesses wish to introduce themselves for the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, members of the jury, opposing counsel, my name is Letizia Innocenti. I will be directing Detective Jordan Markowitz and crossing Professor Blake Van Owen. I will also be playing Kyle Kuzak.
Thank you. Next.
We would like to now ask our witnesses to introduce themselves.
Please.
My name is Carissa Adams, and I will be playing, and I am Detective Jordan Markowitz.
Thank you. Next. Would that be Paisley Parker we're trying to hear that I can't hear?
Yes, Your Honor, she's not in yet.
Oh, okay, and we're comfortable going forward while we're waiting. All right. And am I missing anyone else for the plaintiff to announce?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. For the defense?
Your Honor, before we begin, can the defense ask for a single preliminary matter?
Yes, Ms. McCready.
We ask that the defense is granted all the same preliminary matters as the prosecution, as well as time to be stopped with any technical difficulties.
It shall be.
Thank you. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, co-counsel and opposing counsel, my name is Caitlin McCready, and today I will be delivering the opening statement for the defense, the direct examination of Taylor Perkins, and the cross-examination of Alex Cifuentes.
Thank you, counsel. Defense second counsel.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, my name is Tara Tyler. I'll be doing the cross-examination of Detective Markowitz, the direct examination of Avery Becker and Blake Van Owen.
Thank you. Defense third counsel.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Lily Burdick, and I will be doing the direct examination of Blake Van Owen, the cross-examination of Kyle Kuzak, and delivering the closing argument.
And your witnesses?
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the jury, opposing counsel. My name is Isabella Schulte, and I am Avery Becker.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is...
Oh, technical difficulties. Was that you, Ms. Kuna? Speaking? Was that Ms. Kuna? Or?
Yes, it was, Your Honor. I believe she's still having a couple of difficulties.
All right. I can see Ms. Kuna clearly. I just didn't hear the complete introduction. Did you want to test your audio again, Ms.
Can you hear me
Kuna?
now?
Yes. Yes. Thank
right.
you.
Yes.
And Ms. Tyler, I think you're in a double role, both as counsel and a witness. Okay. Is there anyone on the defense team that we didn't get a chance to have introduce themselves? All right. Do any of our judges see any conflicts, or any student participants see any conflicts? Okay.
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. This session is being recorded for the designated purposes you've already been instructed on. So I would remind our parties to keep your phones off so there aren't any distractions while we're in this competition. Absent any emergencies, there'll be no recesses. We're going to proceed right through. And our scoring panelists didn't have any conflicts either, correct? All right. If there are any disputes, we'll make sure to get those reported to the competition director, make your record, but then we'll address them as well. And I will now administer the oaths. So as you're called upon, please raise your right hand. Team members, please raise your right hands. Do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? Yes, thank you. Witnesses, raising your right hands, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? Yes, thank you. Gallery members, including teachers, attorneys, coaches, family members, and friends, as you raise your right hands, do you promise to represent yourselves as positive role models and to behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical and professional sportsmanship during and after this mock trial round? And scoring panelists, as you raise your right hands, do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? Yes, thank you. All right. Unless there was any other pretrial matter I may have missed, we'll begin with opening statements. All right, first for the plaintiff.
Yes, Your Honor. May I begin?
Yes, you may.
Revenge is best served cold when the lines between expectations and reality start to blur. Your Honor, members of the jury, opposing counsel. The defendant, Avery Becker, is charged with first-degree murder and second-degree burglary of a dwelling. Avery Becker was a senior on the Colorado High School mock trial team with Taylor Perkins and Alex Cifuentes. Now, Coach Brackman and Avery Becker admittedly had a rocky relationship. They constantly were arguing and fighting, and after one large argument, Avery vandalized Mr. Brackman's car. They wrote on their car, "Worst Attorney Award," in big letters across the hood in permanent marker. Now, whether Avery believed it was dry erase marker or not, it was still vandalism. Mackenzie Brackman, after finding this, kicked Avery Becker off the team. Avery Becker then went home to tell their mother that they would get back at Brackman if it was the last thing they did. That was when they made the plan to vandalize Mr. Brackman's home. Avery texted Alex Cifuentes the plan to vandalize his home the way he vandalized the car. On March 6th, 2020, Avery Becker approached Brackman's home. Originally trying to get through the front door, which was locked, Becker went through the side gate and to the back door. This time it opened easily. Mackenzie Brackman was prepared for Becker as he had been notified by the Ring doorbell system of her arrival, but somehow Avery Becker got a hold of the knife. Avery Becker then stabbed Mr. Brackman in the back repeatedly, penetrating his heart. Over the course of the trial, you will hear testimony from Detective Jordan Markowitz, an expert, then Alex Cifuentes, who is Avery's good friend, and lastly, Kyle Kuzak, a certified crime scene reconstruction expert. The prosecution holds the burden of proof today, which we will meet. In an act of revenge where expectation and reality did not coincide, Mackenzie Brackman bled to death. When revenge comes cold and expectation and reality blur, an innocent man was killed. At the end of this trial, you must see that Mr. Brackman is avenged and the verdict is guilty on all accounts. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Opening statement from the defense. You may proceed when ready.
Good afternoon. A tragic event has taken place. On March 6, 2020, an intruder wearing blue latex gloves and a devil Halloween mask entered the home of beloved Colorado High School mock trial coach and criminal defense attorney, Mackenzie Brackman. Later in the day, 911 received a call. When paramedics arrived, they found Mr. Brackman face down in a pool of his own blood with a knife in his back near the open front door of his home. Mr. Brackman was dead. The defendant, the star of the school's mock trial team, who had an up and down relationship with Mr. Brackman, is falsely accused of murder. As ridiculous as it may seem that an amazing mock trial coach can be murdered, nothing is more absurd than the wild goose chase the prosecution is going to try to lead you on today. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, co-counsel and opposing counsel, my name is Caitlin, and on behalf of my team, we are representing the defendant, Avery Becker. Today, the wild goose chase ends. Avery Becker and Mackenzie Brackman had an up and down relationship. They both loved mock trial, they both loved winning, but they disagreed and argued constantly. This was no hidden secret on the team. In fact, their disagreements led to Avery being demoted to B team or sub-varsity. This was devastating to Avery. So what did Avery do? Something not so smart. Avery decided to pull a prank on Mr. Brackman. Avery took an expo marker to Mr. Brackman's car and wrote all over it. After Avery wrote on the car, she realized she made a regrettable mistake. She accidentally mixed up a permanent Sharpie marker and an erasable expo marker. The prank had gone wrong. Mr. Brackman had no other choice but to remove Avery from the team. Avery was devastated, upset, angry, and said some things in the heat of the moment, but as kids realize down the road, there are consequences to their actions. Avery felt remorse. Unfortunately, before Avery could apologize to her beloved coach, Mr. Brackman was found dead, but not at the hands of Avery Becker. Avery Becker, a high school student and former mock trial team superstar, sits before you with her future in your hands. Mrs. Becker is facing charges of first-degree murder and second-degree burglary of a dwelling. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. They must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Avery Becker committed these crimes. For you, the jury, to convict, there must be no doubt in your mind that Avery entered Mackenzie Brackman's home and stabbed him in the back with a knife. Today, the defense will present facts and evidence that proves Avery Becker did not commit these crimes. We will do this.
My phone is.
We will do this by bringing forth 3 witnesses. The first witness is Professor Blake Van Owen. Professor Van Owen will testify to how the prosecution has done a poor job finding evidence, as they are just pointing fingers without a conclusion. The second witness is Taylor Perkins. The former team member who was with Avery Becker the same day as this tragic event can testify to the whereabouts. And finally, you will hear from the defendant herself. Miss Becker will testify that she and Mr. Brackman had their ups and downs, and yes, Mrs. Becker did pull a juvenile prank, but she was never on Mr. Brackman's property, so she could not have done this. The prosecution will lead you on a wild goose chase. They will bring forth witnesses who will not be able to prove Avery Becker entered Mackenzie Brackman's home, pulled a knife, and stabbed him in the back, causing death. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today the wild goose chase stops. After all the facts and evidence are presented, you will have no doubt in your mind that Avery Becker is innocent and acquitted of all these charges. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Prosecution may call your first witness when ready.
The prosecution calls Detective Jordan Markowitz to the stand. Please state
And
your
all
name.
witnesses are presumed sworn in. I apologize for not making that record at the beginning of trial. Thank you.
Please state your name and spell the last for the record.
Detective Jordan Markowitz, Markowitz.
How are you connected to this case?
I'm here to testify on behalf of the prosecution for the trial of the death of Mackenzie Brackman.
And what is your profession?
I'm a homicide detective with the Denver Police, also known as the DPD.
How long have you worked there?
Roughly 13 years.
And what is your area of expertise?
I received specialized training from the American Academy of Law Enforcement regarding cell phone technology and forensic data recovery.
Cell phone technology?
Yes, how to interpret and understand cellular records and tower data. I've done this in over 50 cases.
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 702, based upon their knowledge, skill, and experience, I am tendering Detective Jordan Markowitz as a qualified expert as a homicide detective in the field of cell phone technology and forensic data recovery.
Defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Court finds that the prosecution has laid a sufficient foundation under Rule 702 to qualify Detective Markowitz as an expert in cell phone technology and forensic data recovery and may testify in such capacity.
Tell us, what is your relation to Mackenzie Brackman?
I was assigned to investigate the death of Mackenzie Brackman in March 2020.
Could you elaborate on her?
Sure. On March 6, 2020, a passed out person was reported on the porch of 444 South Flower Street. The officers secured the crime scene and responded approximately 14-20 hours. I was only called because instead of finding the victim passed out, he was found dead.
Let the record reflect that I am showing opposing counsel what has been marked as exhibits 1, 2, and 4. Permission to share screen.
You may.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of Mackenzie Brackman's body as seen from outside of the home?
Yes.
And do you recognize this image?
Yes, it's the same photo, just from a different angle, basically.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of Mackenzie Brackman's body as seen from within the home?
Yes, it is.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of Mackenzie Brackman's wounds?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, move to admit exhibits 1, 2, and 4 into evidence.
Defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibits 1, 2, and 4 are admitted.
Move to publish to jury.
You may.
Detective Markowitz, could you describe the crime scene?
Yeah. The front door was open and the victim, Mr. Brackman, was face down on the floor next to the front door. Next to the body was a knife. The shirt he was wearing was completely blood-soaked. The victim had obviously been stabbed. The angle of the of the body showed the victim had most likely been stabbed attempting to leave out the door.
What was your initial impression on the house?
The residence had multiple Ring doorbells, which would take videos of people leaving the house, entering the house, or even walking up to the house. One aimed at the gate in the backyard and one aimed at the back door. The side gate was also, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, finish your answer, please.
I'm sorry. The side gate was unlatched and the back door was open, and I entered through the back door, which led me to the kitchen.
Let the record reflect that I am showing opposing counsel what has been marked as Exhibits 7 and 9. Permission to share screen.
You may.
Detective Markowitz, do you recognize this image?
Yes, it's what I saw walking into the kitchen, the drawer full of knives.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of the knife drawer exactly as you found it?
Yes.
And do you recognize this image?
Yes, I do. It's the picture of the broken plate that I found.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of the plate at the scene of the crime?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, move to admit Exhibits 7 and 9 into evidence.
Defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibits 7 and 9 are admitted.
Your Honor, move to publish to jury.
You may.
Were you the only one at the scene of the crime?
No, the forensic team came to take pictures. They processed the area around the front door where the body had been, but unfortunately some of the data was unattainable.
And what did you do next?
I looked around the house and I found no other victims and nothing clearly valuable had been stolen or otherwise disturbed. In my expert opinion, it would seem that the victim had caught someone trying to break into the house and had confronted them with the knife from the kitchen. The intruder must have stabbed the victim. Based on the intruder's attire, we can infer that they had malevolent intentions going to the home. In this case, it's the thought that counts.
And did you recognize the victim immediately?
No, I didn't. He was face down on the floor and I was unable to get a good look at him. It was only until I saw the victim's ID that's when I knew it was Mackenzie Brackman, a criminal defense attorney who had defended multiple homicides, which I'd previously investigated.
You mentioned earlier that you have had previous experiences with cellular devices. What did you see when you downloaded Brackman's information?
Well, first I obtained the account and data passwords from his Ring account. I was able to access all of the files from March 6, 2020.
Let the record reflect that I am showing opposing counsel what has been marked as Exhibit 12. Permission to share screen.
You may.
Detective Markowitz, do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of the video from one of the Ring cameras?
Yes, it's how the intruder entered the residence.
Your Honor, permission to play the video.
Defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
You may.
Your Honor, move to admit Exhibit 12 to evidence.
So ruled, and you may. It is admitted.
Detective Markowitz, what did you do next?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
What did you do next?
I'm sorry. I then downloaded the contents from Mr. Brackman's phone and found multiple messages to something related to something called mock trial. After following up on it, I found out that he'd been a mock trial coach for Colorado High School. Based on the number of messages, it seemed that he spent more time working on the mock trial team than his actual job as a lawyer.
And where did that lead you?
Following up on the mock trial activity, I contacted students on his team. The very first student I called gave me the largest break in the case. Alex Fuentes informed me another student had planned to break into their coach's home, the student's name being Avery Becker, a senior. Avery messaged Alex saying that she still wanted to be on the team. Becker stated that she was going to trash Mackenzie Brackman's house while he was at work.
And what did you find on Alex Fuentes' phone?
Well, when I asked for Alex Fuentes' phone, I found out that she didn't have it, and she instead sent me screenshots of the conversation between her and Avery Becker.
What did you do next?
I obtained a warrant to search Avery Becker's phone, but found out that she was no longer in possession of it.
Do you know what happened to Avery Becker's phone?
Avery Becker had lost her phone on March 5th, 2020. I then got a court order to obtain account records from Miss Becker's service provider and cell tower records for March 6th, 2020.
And what else did you receive?
I also obtained cell records, technically referred to as call data records. They keep track of messages and calls you send. The record also identifies the cell tower which the cell phone was communicating with, which includes the specific antenna on the tower.
What did you confirm with these records?
I did confirm there were incoming calls from another student named Taylor Perkins, which were so short it was unlikely that Becker had answered. The calls show that all activity in Miss Becker's phone ceased after 1320 hours on March 6, 2020. If a phone is turned off all the way or placed in airplane mode, it stops communicating entirely with the cell towers near it. In this case, I suspect the phone was turned off after the murder and was likely destroyed and disposed of later.
And do you know how many calls and texts Perkins sent to Becker?
Yes, I do. Between 12:47 and 1:17, Taylor Perkins had called Miss Becker twice and sent only 3 messages, which I thought was really odd. If I lost my phone, I would have called it a few more times.
Based on the evidence collected, what is your expert opinion after what happened?
Based on all of the evidence we collected, I believe that it is likely that Avery Becker went to Mackenzie Brackman's house on Friday, March 6, 2020, with the thought to break in and vandalize the house in relation for Becker getting back or getting kicked off the mock trial team. Then she was surprised to see Mr. Brackman home and then killed him and took off.
The prosecution has no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Hello, Detective Markowitz. I
Hello.
hope you're well.
I am.
You believe that this is a burglary gone wrong, correct?
Correct.
Yet no expensive items were missing
No, they were not.
and none were broken.
No.
You believe that this was a result of, you believe that there was an altercation that took place?
Yes, I do.
And the autopsy report shows no defensive wounds.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes, of course. And the autopsy report did not show any defensive wounds.
No.
Okay. You've seen the ring videos that you collected off Brackman's phone?
Yes, I have.
Great. Do you have any definitive proof that Avery Becker is behind that Halloween mask?
No, not besides all of the evidence we've collected throughout this investigation.
Do you have any fingerprints?
No, we don't.
So the only thing that you have is a similar height and build.
That's correct.
Okay. Let's talk about the cell towers you used in this case. You used cell tower data to locate Avery Becker's phone?
Yes, I did.
Are you aware that her phone was missing?
Yes, I am.
And you only pulled cell tower data from a specific time?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out really bad. Can you repeat that for me?
Yes. You only pulled you only pulled cell tower data from a specific time, correct?
That's correct.
You are aware that the fire shack is close to the cell towers that you took data from, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's talk about the text messages involved in this case. You spoke to Alex Fuentes, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you were told about these text messages.
I was.
did Alex Cifuentes have their phone on them when you interviewed him?
No, she didn't.
So you allowed her to send screenshots of these text messages?
Yes, I did.
And you are certified in cell phone recovery, correct?
That's correct.
And your training was only 3 days?
It was.
Okay. You worked with many cell phones, correct?
I do.
You worked with many different brands like Samsung or iPhone, correct?
I do.
So you are aware of the Apple messaging system, correct?
I am.
Okay. So, sorry. So as an expert, you are aware that if an iPhone connects to another iPhone, that the sent message would be blue, correct?
That's correct.
And you are aware that these cannot be modified.
That's correct.
Okay. You know that Alex Cifuentes has an iPhone, correct?
I did not know that.
Permission for co-counsel to screen share what is marked as Exhibit 14.
You may.
Detective Markowitz, you previously stated that if an iPhone contacted another iPhone, that the sent message would be blue, correct?
That's correct.
Can you please tell me what the first sent message color is?
Green. The first from Alex or the first from Avery?
Either one.
Well, from Alex, it's green, and from Avery, it's like a grayish color.
Okay. You previously stated that an iPhone connecting to an iPhone would be blue, correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor.
Objection, counsel?
Hearsay, this evidence has not been admitted.
Ms. Tyler, your response?
Your Honor, I'm just pointing out what Detective Markowitz used in her investigation.
Any response?
The questions are an out of court. The evidence has not been admitted into evidence and therefore should not be used.
So the objection is hearsay. All right. Ms. Tyler, are you seeking to admit the content of these text messages as evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. I apologize.
So you were asking to admit Exhibit 14?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And the prosecution's objection is hearsay, that you're offering it as an out-of-court statement to prove the truth of the matters stated in these texts. Do you have a response to that objection?
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said? You're cutting out.
So the prosecution has a hearsay objection indicating that you're seeking to introduce these text messages to prove the contents of the statements as being true and admit them into this trial. And I don't know if you have a response to that hearsay objection.
No response, Your Honor.
So what purpose are you seeking to introduce these text messages?
I'm sorry, could you repeat yourself?
What purpose are you seeking to introduce Exhibit 14, the text messages, for?
They would be for certification since Detective Markowitz, this is in Detective Markowitz certified area and expertise.
Okay. What do you want to use the text messages to prove?
Sorry, Your Honor. This is within Detective Markowitz's expertise of knowing cell phones and cell phone data recovery. Detective Markowitz did not know that I'm so sorry, Your Honor. That
You're okay.
did not have sorry. That Alex Sufin did have an iPhone, or that the defendant did have an iPhone as well.
Oh, so if I understand it correctly, it's more about the color of the texts to determine whether or not both recipients had an iPhone or not versus the content of the texts that you're seeking to admit it. Did I understand that argument correctly or not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. The objection's overruled, at least the purposes for which the defense is seeking to introduce it. It sounds like impeachment in part regarding Detective Markowitz's understanding of the phones and what type of phones they were, and making that point. So the objection to hearsay is overruled, and the exhibit will be admitted. Next question, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Co-counsel, can you screen share Exhibit 14 again? Detective Markowitz, do you see at the bottom of this exhibit?
I do.
And you are aware that there are icons such as Apple Pay and iTunes?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, so with the messages being green and the trademark of an iPhone, I'm so sorry. So with the messages being green and the trademark of the iPhone messages, these messages did not come from Avery Becker. No further questions, Your Honor.
Was there a question that you were going to ask Detective Markowitz then to answer with that last question, ma'am?
I already asked the question.
All right. Redirect, prosecution?
No redirect, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused?
Yes.
Thank you. Witness is excused. Prosecution may call your next witness.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Alex Cifuentes to the stand.
Thank you. You may proceed when ready. And do we have defense counsel ready?
Yes, Your
See
Honor.
your witness. Oh, there you are. Thank you. You may proceed.
Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Alex Cifuentes, Sifuentes.
What high school did you attend?
I went to Colorado High School in Denver.
What grade were you in when this crime took place?
I was a junior.
What was your relationship with Mr. Brackman?
He was my mock trial coach, and a great one at that. He pushed us to do our best and wanted us to succeed. We all loved him, well, almost all of us.
What do you mean by that?
Avery Becker one of the other students and someone I would have considered a friend, well, she didn't take his constructive criticism very well.
What was your relationship with Avery Becker?
We used to be friends.
Can you point out the defendant today?
May the defendant please turn their camera on? I wasn't able to see them.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that my witness has identified the defendant.
I'm not sure that's happened yet. Would you ask your witness again if she's had a chance to identify?
Yes, Your Honor. Can you point out the defendant?
I was unable to see the defendant.
This is just a little timeout. Are we talking about a technical difficulty or you can't make a positive ID?
I cannot see what the defendant looks like, so I can't give an identifying
Okay.
description.
Okay. Please continue, counsel.
Earlier, you stated that not many of the other members liked the defendant. What did you mean by that?
Well, they would come late to practice a lot and completely unprepared. It caused the team a lot of strife, as well as the coach.
From what you witnessed, did the defendant and Brackman get along?
No, like I said earlier, Avery did not like the constructive criticism that Mr. Brackman gave. They would get into heated arguments sometimes. Mr. Brackman, he cared about Avery very much and tried to help them, but Avery was never really thankful for that. Their true colors were really shown after the vandalism incident.
What vandalism incident?
Well, he had told Avery all of the mistakes that they had made during the trial so that they could work on them and get better. But Avery took it offensively. He said that Avery didn't deserve the awards because they didn't do any of the work and they ended up walking out.
What happened once the defendant left?
Avery had grabbed a marker on their way out. We had an easel with permanent markers and paper where we would write down our trial ideas. Then they wrote Worst Attorney Award on Mr. Brackman's beautiful vintage 1986 Porsche 911.
What happened after that?
Mr. Brackman kicked Avery off of the mock trial team.
Did the defendant ever contact you after they were kicked off?
Avery was mad with desperation, and Mr. Brackman. Avery wanted to get back on the team badly. They had sent me a text after the car incident asking me to talk to Coach Brackman and ask if he would allow them back on the team.
And did you ask Mr. Brackman?
Absolutely. I made an impassioned plea for him to allow them back on the team, but he wouldn't budge. Besides, the team was better off without them.
What else did the defendant say to you through the text messages?
Avery threatened to break into his house and trash it when he was at work. I told them that it wasn't a good idea, but it seems that they tried to do it anyway.
Would you recognize these text messages if I were to show them to you?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to show the witness and opposing counsel Exhibit 14.
You may.
If we may have a moment, technical difficulties.
So we'll stop time for a moment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Time has been stopped.
Thank you. And we'll resume when counsel is able to get the exhibit up on her screen. All right, may resume.
Are these the text messages?
Yes, they are.
When you learned of the victim's murder, did you know right away that it was the defendant?
I was surprised that Brackman died, but I knew who did it. After all, they texted me that they were going to trash Brackman's house.
Did you believe the defendant when they texted you this?
Avery was very upset and clearly wasn't thinking straight. They were desperate to get back on the team and get revenge. I didn't believe it at the time, but maybe I should have warned Mr. Brackman sooner. I could have stopped all of this.
Thank you, co-counsel, for sharing the screen. Moving forward, after the untimely passing away of Mackenzie Brackman, what made you talk to Detective Markowitz?
Detective Markowitz contacted me and informed me of the untimely passing of Mr. Brackman and questioned me.
When Detective Markowitz contacted you, what did you talk about?
Well, I brought up the text messages.
Did you knowing the defendant as well as you do believe that they were capable of this?
Yes, their need for revenge clearly overshone the small heart they had.
And what are your thoughts on their need for revenge based on your personal knowledge?
Revenge is best served cold when the lines between expectations and reality begin to blur. And Avery was out for revenge, which resulted in the cold-blooded murder of our beloved coach.
Your Honor, no further questions.
Cross-examination?
Good afternoon, Alex. Let's dive right in. You stated you and Becker were friends, right?
Yes, I did.
You've referred to Avery as he and they. Are you not aware the defendant is a female?
I was not able to see the defendant.
You did not report the messages when you received them, correct?
No, I did not.
You were quick to give information on the case about the text messages between you and Avery. Is that true?
Yes, I was. They are essential.
Did you bring your phone into your interview with Detective Markowitz?
No, I forgot it on charge at my house.
And you didn't send the screenshots of the text messages until the next day, correct?
That would be true.
Would you agree that's a long time to wait, especially if you were supposed to send them as soon as you got home?
Well, my phone was on charge.
You said that Markowitz told you to send the screenshots when you got home, correct?
Yes.
So would you agree that you did not follow the instructions of the detective?
Yes, I would.
You were at the table when Taylor and Avery stormed off to the bathroom, correct?
Yes, I was.
And was her phone at the table?
Maybe.
You previously mentioned that when the police called you, and so I quote, you didn't want to rat Avery out, especially about the text messages, correct?
That is true.
One final question. You did not have the phone anymore because you traded it in, correct?
Yes, it wasn't working properly and didn't hold a charge very long.
Your Honor, no further questions.
Any redirect? No. May this witness be excused? Thank you. Prosecution may call your next witness.
Your Honor, one of our attorneys has unfortunately had to leave. Could I please have a few minutes to sort some things out?
Can I get a ruling from Mr. Downey? Seems like an emergency. We might pause time for a minute.
Yes, Miss Innocenti, how long do you think it will take?
2 to 3 minutes. I don't need a lot.
I think that's fine. And what is your intention with regards to this? Are you going to come in and fulfill that role or try and get them back on?
No, that attorney is unavailable. I was supposed to do Kuzak, but now I'm going to be the attorney and somebody else will have to do Kuzak. So I just need to sort that out real quick.
Perfect. Okay. I think a 3-minute recess is appropriate.
Thank you. I'll mark that.
We're ready, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution may call your next witness.
The prosecution would like to call Kyle Kuzak to the stand.
Thank you. Do we have defense counsel ready to go? There we go. Thank you. You may proceed.
Please state your name and spell the last for the record.
I am Kyle Kuzak, Kuzak.
What is your profession?
I am a Colorado Bureau of Investigation certified crime scene reconstruction investigator, also known as a CSR.
And what does a CSR do?
The essence of a CSR work involves conducting an initial walkthrough examination of the crime scene, taking photographs, logging evidence, and getting a general feel of the scene, organizing an approach to collecting evidence and relying on that information to the crime scene team.
And how does this analysis affect a case?
In a CSR, the analysis of evidence creates more investigation questions and hence more analysis in a quest for the best explanation of what did or did not happen. As evidence is taken in, context is refined, and so is the best explanation of events.
And what is your experience in law enforcement?
I spent 19 years investigating complex crime scenes. I spent 3 most recent years of work with the city of Denver.
Could you tell us what you mean when you say complex crime scenes?
Yes, I can. I've investigated home invasions, burglaries, and other property crimes. I've also investigated homicides, domestic violence, fatal accidents, and even armed robberies.
What is your process in conducting these investigations?
I use witness tracking spreadsheets to begin. I then expand and use a flowchart and timeline. I expand the existing organizational framework for information, evidence, and images to document and evidence, relationships, lab submissions, and analysis.
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 702, based upon their knowledge, skill, and experience, I am tendering Kyle Kuzak as a qualified expert witness in the field of complex crime scene reconstruction and investigation.
Defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Based on Investigator Cusack's training, education, experience, the court finds the prosecution has laid a sufficient foundation under Rule 702 to qualify her as an expert in complex crime scene reconstruction. You may proceed.
When did you visit the scene of the homicide?
In March of 2020, I investigated the scene of Mackenzie Brackman's death. I also reviewed all of the police reports, photographs, and ring security videos for this case.
In tracking the investigation, what important information did you gather from the ring videos?
In the ring videos, I was able to gather information on the suspect. It was easy to see that the perpetrator in the videos matches the general height and build of Avery Becker.
From the evidence, what is apparent about the perpetrator's knowledge of the residence?
From the evidence, it is apparent that the intruder had knowledge of the victim's property and residence and likely chose a time of day when the victim pattern would have placed him outside of the home.
And in your expert opinion, was Coach Brockman aware of the perpetrator's presence before the confrontation?
The victim was present and alerted to the intruder's presence at the back of the house before the intruder entered. Unfortunately, in ensuring a struggle, the victim was killed with the same knife introduced into the encounter.
And what happened after the victim was alerted?
The victim likely looked for a defensive weapon in the knife drawer, but then took the larger chef's knife from the knife block. The victim then confronted the intruder, then the intruder entered through the back door.
And after analyzing the scene and the photographs, what conclusion do you draw?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
After visiting the scene and analyzing some photographs, what conclusions did you draw?
After visiting the scene and analyzing each paragraph, I came to one and only one conclusion. The victim must have been alerted by the ring security system as the intruder approached the front door, then went around the back gate on the side of the residence and went in through the back door.
Based on your analysis of the scene, where did the struggle take place?
When the two individuals struggled over the knife, the struggle moved to the kitchen table where the plate was knocked over to the ground. At some point, the intruder disarmed the victim and obtained the chef knife.
And how do you know that the intruder gained possession of the knife?
The location and position of the knife was in the victim's body would be constant, with the intruder being very close approximately to the victim, possibly being held or constrained by the victim, such as being in a bear hug, then reached over and stabbing the victim in the upper back shoulder area, also known as the scapula bone.
After your careful investigation and reconstruction, how would you describe this case?
In the end, this was clearly a plan of burglary gone bad and ended with someone dead.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Good evening, Ms. Kuzak.
Good evening.
You investigated 3 suspects, correct?
Yes.
And suspect 3, Blair Rollins, was not located, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now let's talk about your reconstruction. You believe that this was a burglary gone wrong?
Yes, I do.
And you believe that the victim and the intruder fought over the knife?
Yes, I do.
You believe this despite the fact that the autopsy report showed no defensive wounds, correct?
Yes, I do.
All right. You, Ms. Kuzak, arrived after the scene was processed, correct?
That's correct.
And so some of the evidence that you used in your reconstruction, you didn't see it in person, did you?
No, I did not. Doesn't mean it's not actual evidence that is reliable.
I was not asking about the reliability. I was simply asking whether or not you saw it in person, yes or no?
No, I did not.
All right. And you saw some scuff marks on the floor, correct?
That's correct.
And you believe this indicated a struggle?
Yes, I do.
Is there any way to carbon date these scuff marks?
No, there's not.
All right, and finally, let's move on to the Ring video system. You claim that the person in the videos obviously matches the build of Avery Becker, correct?
That's correct.
Do you have any fingerprints that match Mr. Becker or Miss Becker?
No, I don't.
Do you have any picture or video evidence of Avery Becker's face behind that mask?
No, I don't.
So the only proof that you have that Miss Becker's face behind that mask is a potentially matching build.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes. The only proof that you have that Avery Becker is the person in the Ring videos is a potentially matching build?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Thank you. This witness is excused. We'll now proceed. Oh, anything else from the prosecution? Okay. We'll now proceed to the defense calling their first witness.
Defense calls Avery Becker to the stand.
Okay. Do we have the prosecuting attorney ready? There we go. Thank you. You may proceed when ready.
Hello, Ms. Becker. Please state your full name and spell your last for the record.
Avery Becker, Becker.
And why are you here, Ms. Becker?
I'm here today because I've been wrongfully accused of murdering my beloved coach.
Okay. Let's talk about your relationship with Mr. Brackman. Were you guys close?
I wouldn't say close, but he's my coach for 4 years, you know. We had some disagreements here and there, but yeah.
Why did you have issues with Mr. Brackman?
Well, because I was really good, and I think honestly he was jealous. And so, yeah.
What happened after you were placed on the B team?
After I was placed on B team, it was devastating to me. It could have ruined my mock trial career. So one of my best friends, Taylor Perkins, stepped down from the team so that Brackman was kind of forced to have me back on the team.
Okay. What happened after regionals?
After regionals, I made the worst decision I've ever made in my life. I pulled a prank on Mr. Brackman. I took what I thought at the time was an expo marker, which turned out to be a permanent marker, and wrote on the hood of his car. I regret it so much, and I even offered to get a job and pay for the damages.
And Ms. Becker, how did that incident make you feel?
Like I said, it was the worst decision I've ever made. And I was really mad at Brackman because he kicked me off the team. But I realized my mistake and tried to apologize to him.
And your teammates, what was your relationship? What was your relationship like with your teammates?
Well, one of my teammates, Taylor Perkins, is one of my best friends. And then another teammate, Alex Fuentes. We've had an okay relationship, but yeah.
Please elaborate on your relationship with Alex Fuentes.
Well, I think Alex was a little jealous of me winning the awards. Also, we just didn't get along too well.
What happened the day of March 6, 2020?
On March 6th, I had lost, or I think my phone was stolen the night before. So me and Taylor decided to skip school and went to the mall to look for it and ended up at the Fry Shack.
Earlier that day, you sent some unflattering text messages. How did you send them?
I couldn't have, and I didn't because I didn't have my phone.
How did losing your phone make you feel?
It was honestly devastating to me. I mean, I couldn't tell my mom. She would have gone super mad. And it's, you know, my form of communication. I didn't know what to do without it, honestly.
Permissions to screen share was previously marked as Exhibit 14.
You may.
Ms. Becker, what are these?
I have never seen these before, but they look like text messages.
Is there anything that stands out to you?
Well, my name at the top, at the contact, as well as the messages being green.
What's wrong with the color being green?
Well, if this phone, this iPhone was texting my phone as it supposedly is, the messages would be blue because I have an iPhone as well.
Okay. And finally,
Can
did
you
you kill
re-ask?
Mackenzie Brackman?
No, I did not. I would never, ever hurt my beloved coach, Mackenzie Brackman.
Very well. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
If you could just give me a second because I'm doing time.
Yes.
Okay.
You may proceed, counsel.
Ms. Becker, so after you were demoted to B team, you took Taylor's place, essentially.
Yes, that's correct.
And you were comfortable with your best friend making such a sacrifice for you.
Yes, well, I want a future career in law and criminal justice. However, Taylor does not. So we saw it right for her to step down.
And after being demoted, you were angry.
Yes, of course. It could have ruined my mock trial career.
At Coach Brockman.
Yes.
For kicking you off a mock trial 2 months before graduation.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You cut out.
You were angry for being kicked off a mock trial team, a high school mock trial team.
Yes.
And so you wrote on Coach Brockman's car.
Yes, well, that wasn't when I was demoted, but I wrote on Brockman's car, and it's the worst decision I've ever made, and I've reflected on my actions and realized that.
Would you say that decision was a heat of the moment kind of thing?
Yes, I suppose.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. You're excused. Defense may call your next witness.
The defense calls Taylor Perkins to the stand.
And we have all counsel. Who's doing the direct?
I am, Your Honor.
Oh, okay, thank you. And who's crossing? For the prosecution?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McCready. Ms. Adams. Ms. McCready, you may begin.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you please repeat?
I apologize. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Taylor Perkins, Perkins.
Why are you here today, Ms. Perkins?
Because my best friend, Avery Becker, is being wrongfully accused of committing our amazing mock trial coach, Mackenzie Brackman.
Is Avery Becker here today?
Yes, she is.
Please identify Avery Becker for the court.
She has blonde hair and is wearing a white shirt.
Please let the record show that Taylor Perkins correctly identified the defendant, Avery Becker.
It shall.
How do you know Avery Becker, Ms. Perkins?
Well, I mean, she's my best friend, and we went to school together and we did mock trial together. I mean, she's the only reason I did mock trial.
Who else do you recognize here today?
Alex Cifuentes.
And please identify Alex Cifuentes for the court.
She has brown hair, was wearing glasses, a black shirt, and a blue.
I believe Ms. Perkins has frozen, but please let the record show that Taylor Perkins has correctly identified Alex Cifuentes.
It shall. Ms. Perkins, we lost your video. Are you back?
Yes.
Okay, I think so. Thank you. Please continue, counsel.
Ms. Perkins, how do you know Alex Cifuentes?
Alex was on the mock trial team with us. She was a year below us in school.
What did you and Avery do together?
Well, everything. I mean, we're best friends. So we went to school, we did mock trial, and we hung out all the time.
How did you like being on the mock trial team?
I mean, I liked it. I didn't want to be a lawyer or anything, but we had fun.
What was Mr. Brackman like as a coach?
I mean, he was a mediocre coach, but like I said, we had fun.
Practice? What did you observe?
Well, Avery was a bit of a slacker, but could come to practice without having anything prepared and still be amazing at mock trial. And I mean, like, she was scary good. And it seemed like, and Mr. Brackman always got really red in the face, and it seemed like steam was about to come out of his ears every time that happened.
Avery drove Mr. Brackman crazy and looked like steam was about to come out of his ears. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, like I said, whenever Avery would come unprepared, Brackman got really red in the face and sounded very angry.
What happened to Avery?
Well, one time when she came to practice super unprepared, Mr. Brackman moved her down to B team, and I thought it was like super unfair, so I quit the A team.
Why did you quit the team?
Well, because like I said, I thought it was super unfair that Avery got demoted, and I didn't want to be a lawyer. Avery does. So I knew that if I quit the team, then Brackman would have to move Avery up to fill my spot.
There was a prank. What happened?
Well, I wasn't there, but what I heard from Avery was that she grabbed what she thought was a Sharpie, or not a Sharpie, a Expo marker, and it turned out to be a Sharpie, and wrote on Mr. Brackman's car.
What happened after the prank?
It was bad. Avery got kicked off the team and came to my house a mess.
What did you and Avery do then?
Well, we went to the mall in the Fry Shack to try to cheer her up.
What happened next?
Well, when we went to the Fry Shack, we ran into some of the other mock trial kids, including Alex. And Avery let Alex play on her phone and then got up and stormed to the bathroom.
Then what happened?
And then Avery stormed out of the bathroom and out of the Fry Shack, and I got up and followed her.
Who was the last person you saw with Avery Becker's cell phone?
Last I saw, Alex Cifuentes was playing a game on it.
On March 6th, 2020, where were you?
I was with Avery. We were looking for her missing phone at the mall in the Fry Shack.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Miss Perkins.
Good afternoon.
You and Avery have been friends for a while, correct?
Yeah, best friends.
And how long have you known Miss Becker for?
A really long time.
You guys even did school on March 6th, 2020 to look for her phone?
Yeah, she had lost it the night before.
And you, her best friend, is her only source for an alibi?
I mean, for most of the day, but we ran into the mock trial team at the Fry Shack.
On March 6th?
Yes.
Okay. So again, throughout the day, you, her best friend, is the only source of Avery's alibi.
I guess.
Avery and Coach Brackman didn't have a great relationship, correct?
Yeah, they butt heads sometimes.
And she even got demoted to 18, the team you were also on with her?
She got demoted to B team from A team, yes.
Sorry, that's what I meant. And you saved the day by dropping mock trial to save Avery to get back so she could get back up to 18?
Yeah.
We lost you, Ms. Kuna. I couldn't hear that last response. Might have some computer issues. Ms. Kuna, are you with us?
Yes, sorry. Sometimes my internet is unstable.
No problem. Would you repeat that last answer, please?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sorry. And Miss Becker, and you saved the day by dropping out a mock trial so Miss Becker could get back up onto 18.
Yeah, like I said, Avery wanted to be a lawyer. I don't. So it made sense.
So that's a yes?
Yes.
Okay. But when she vandalized Mackenzie Brockman's car, you couldn't do too much to help Avery, could you?
No, I was already off the team. So the best I could do was try to cheer her up.
And that night, Avery Becker got kicked off the team?
Yeah.
And from that incident, or from what I gathered today, Avery was not the only one that didn't like Brackman, but also had poor impulse control, correct?
I mean, I wouldn't say poor impulse control. I mean, she got angry sometimes.
And one time she got angry and decided to vandalize a car, correct?
She thought it was an expo marker that would come right off the car.
But she still vandalized the car, correct?
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Miss Perkins, from what Avery told you after the prank, was Avery remorseful for what she had done?
Yeah, she was super sorry about what she done. She even tried to contact Mr. Brackman to apologize, and she offered to get a job to pay for the damage on the car.
Your Honor, no further questions.
Any further recross on that one last issue? No? Thank you, Ms. Perkins. You're excused. Defense third witness?
Defense calls Blake Van Owen to the stand.
Thank you. You may proceed when ready.
Good evening, Professor Van Owen. Please state your full name and spell your last for the record.
Blake Van Owen, Van-Owen.
And why are you here today?
I'm here to testify and investigate to the death of Mackenzie Brackman.
What is your occupation?
Well, I'm a professor, I'm a private investigator, and I'm an expert in police practices.
What's your background as a private investigator?
I was a security guard and a school resource officer before becoming a private investigator.
All right. And your educational background, what's that like?
I have a bachelor's degree in English from CU Boulder, and I have a master's degree in criminal justice from Ashford University.
What's your experience with the Denver Police Department?
I believe for a 9-month period around there before I left.
And what made
I'm
you
sorry. Could I get that repeated? The connection got a little poor. Sorry.
Yes, would you like me to repeat the question as well?
Please.
What is your experience with the Denver Police Department, Professor Van Owen?
I worked there for about a 9-month period before leaving.
And what made you leave?
Well, I was young, and one day a pedestrian was resisting arrest. They ended up getting injured, and me being young and new into the law enforcement thing, I didn't handle it the best way, and I seek higher opportunities as I should have.
All right. And how long have you been working as a professor and private investigator?
I've been in this for many years, since 2015, well into my career as a private investigator.
And what do you do within your professions?
So many. Cell tower analysis, false arrests, forensic evidence, crime scene reconstruction, CDRs, you name it.
And how many cases have you been recognized as an expert in?
Whew. Well over 100 at this point.
How have you been compensated for your testimony today?
Well, you see, I'm a professional. I'm being compensated for my time. All the attorneys are being paid for their time, and the jury's being paid for theirs. Whether I get paid to be on defense or prosecution does not bias my opinion. Although my track record does show that I've only done defense, that does not bias my opinion whatsoever.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, defense would like to enter Professor Blake Van Allen as an expert in crime scene reconstruction, cell tower analysis, and police investigation tactics.
Prosecution?
No objections, Your Honor.
Based on Blake Van Owen's training, education, expertise, the court finds that the defense has qualified her as an expert in crime scene reconstruction, cell tower analysis, and I think it was police investigative practices. Counsel, was that the third area?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. You may continue.
And let's talk about your investigation into this case. What did you do first when you approached it?
Well, I did the most obvious thing. I looked into the evidence, saw the photos from the crime scene, and I came across a missing file.
Right. And can you tell us more about this missing file?
Well, the missing file were pictures of the blood caskets from when the knife was stabbed and pulled out of Mackenzie Brackman's shoulder.
All right. Why did you feel the need to contribute to this investigation?
I felt the need, not because I'm being paid or anything, but I felt that with all the rushed work that the police was doing and the missing file, I knew that Becker was not going to get a fair say in this trial.
What were you able to contribute specifically, Professor?
Well, I did a detailed investigation, as well as looking into the cell towers and the probability of Becker actually committing this crime.
All right, and let's talk about the cell phones involved in this case. What do you know about cell phone towers?
Well, cell phone towers can communicate over large areas, and of course in urban areas they're more tightly compact, but can still cover up a large range. And cell phones can connect to multiple towers, and they usually connect to the tower with the best signal. So if you could be in point A, you can connect to a tower way farther away if the signal is better.
All right, and did you review the cell tower records involved in this case?
Of course I did.
Would you be able to recognize them in court today?
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, permission to screen share what's been previously marked as Exhibit 16.
You may.
A moment. All right. Professor Van Allen, without going into the contents, what is this?
Yes, this is the diagram of the cell towers that I used in my investigation.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of what you received?
Yes.
Has this been altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, defense would like to admit Exhibit 16 into evidence.
Prosecution?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 16 is admitted.
And permission to publish.
You may.
Professor Van Allen, how are these cell tower records relevant to the death of Mackenzie Brackman?
They're not very relevant at all. Allow me to elaborate with my statement. You see, cell towers can connect to multiple phones, and phones can connect to multiple towers. A phone can be in one area but connect to a tower that's far, far, far away. And you don't have a precise location of where the phone is. Do you understand? You kind of see what I'm saying?
Yes, so cell phone could be in any of these covered in red?
Oh, yes. It could have been at the fry shack. It could have been, I don't know, across the street. It could have been anywhere in that area.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else that you found concerning about these cell towers or the phone?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Is there anything else that you found concerning about these cell towers or the phone?
If it wasn't concerning enough that the cell towers weren't exactly accurate, the text messages that were used in this case weren't exactly, how you say, useful?
Could you please elaborate on why they wouldn't be useful?
Well, you see, the problem with using screenshots of text messages is that you can go in and fix them to your liking or anytime. Like Sinfluenza said, they sent they sent the text messages in at a later time. We don't know if they were altered. We don't know. They're screenshots. It's not the hardcore, like the hard evidence of the phone, of the text messages.
And would you be able to identify these text messages?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 14, which has previously been admitted into evidence.
You may.
All right. Professor Van Allen, is there anything in particular that you find concerning about these text messages?
Yes, as stated multiple times, the defendant has an iPhone, and yet again, these text messages supposedly sent from Alex Fuentes are green, and if you can scroll down to the bottom there of the exhibit, you can tell that Alex Fuentes has an iPhone, meaning that an iPhone would have been blue and gray.
All right. And you've also mentioned that the defendant lost their phone. How does this impact the case?
Well, we still don't know where the defendant's phone is, and it was likely that it could have been deactivated at the time.
All right. And now to the prosecution's theory. How does it conflict with your own?
Well, the only thing that we agree on is that the intruder broke into Brackman's house. Allow me to explain. You see, the autopsy report shows that there was a downward force into the aorta, which would mean the assailant would have to be above Mackenzie Brackman of the same build or larger. You understand? So that the downward force would have to be, yeah.
And why is the position of the knife important?
Well, the way that the prosecution's theory with holding the knife upside down and in the exact same build as McGiffin doesn't really, the way you would normally hold a knife wouldn't turn into that incision or that stab wound.
Okay. And earlier today, you viewed some Ring doorbell videos. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the prosecution admitted that there was another suspect, Blair Rollins, I believe, and we still don't know the whereabouts of where Blair is, and they only have the height and build, which isn't too much evidence to link to the defendant.
All right. Thank you, Professor. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Professor Blake Van Owen, you conducted your own partial investigation in this case, is that so?
Yes, I did.
And like you just stated, you believe Blair Rollins to be a more probable suspect?
Well, yeah, she's of the similar height and build as Avery Becker, and all the prosecution's using is height and build. When Blair Rollins has the same height and build, why wouldn't they, use her as a suspect?
But have you ever spoken with Blair Rollins?
Well, as I previously stated, the prosecution let her get away, and we don't know the whereabouts of her.
So that's a no.
No.
Aren't you then speculating Blair's involvement?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
In that case, are you not speculating Blair's involvement?
I believe I'm not the one speculating Blair's involvement. The prosecution did say that there was another suspect. They did not go further into the investigation, nor did they interview her when she's another suspect. So within my job, I have to find out the real true story with detailed investigation.
So is there any evidence to suggest that Blair Rollins was even in town during the day in question?
Well, going off of what the lazy investigation that the prosecution did, I couldn't. So no.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Professor Van Owen, you were here in court today for Ms. Kuzak's testimony, correct?
That is correct.
And so during her cross-examination, do you remember what Blair Rollins was labeled as?
No, I did not.
Well, I'll remind you, Blair Rollins was labeled as a suspect. And that is, so would this contribute at all to your believing that Blair Rollins was involved?
Well, duh, they labeled Blair Rollins as a suspect, so to not put her as a suspect in this case is just crazy to me, because...
Yes. And you were only able to work with the evidence that you were provided, yes?
Yeah, it wasn't much, because, of course, the investigation was rushed on the prosecution's end, but I did with what I had.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Anything further for this witness? No, thank you, Professor. You're excused. Anything else from the defense?
The defense rests, Your Honor.
Thank you. We will be proceeding to closing arguments. And beginning with the prosecution when you are ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Revenge is best served cold, when the lines between expectation and reality start to blur. Your Honor, members of the jury, and opposing counsel, today you heard from 6 different witnesses from Jordan Markowitz to Blake Van Owen. But all we heard today was the fact that Avery Becker had anger issues, wrote on the car, vandalized Mr. Rackman's car after getting in the heat of a moment kind of thing. We got screenshots from Alex Fuentes that led us in this direction of Avery Becker. These screenshots are proof that it was Avery Becker. The defense went for the easiest solution. Revenge comes cold when expectation and reality starts to blur. Alex brought up the fact that Avery wanted revenge on Mr. Brackman. Avery and Mr. Brackman got into a lot of fights. Avery Becker had a motive. She wanted Mr. Brackman to pay for what he did, kicking her off the team, bumping her down to B team. But today you also heard from Taylor Perkins, who stated that she was the only source for Miss Becker's alibi. You also heard her state today in court that she quit mock trial so Avery Becker would have no choice, or Mr. Brackman would have no choice to bump Avery Becker back up to 18. What else would Taylor do for Miss Becker? Today, the defendant is here for her life, but she needs to be found guilty because she took someone else's life because she was in the heat of a moment kind of thing. Today, I hope that you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, find that we have met the burden of proof. We have shown you all of the evidence needed to find Miss Becker guilty. Miss Becker is guilty. Miss Becker did commit this crime. Today, the defendant has no defense has no right evidence. Today, the prosecution has shown you with all of the right evidence that it was Miss Becker. Avery Becker and Taylor Perkins were with each other all day on March 6, 2020. But Miss Becker claims to have lost her phone. Then why was her phone in the area of Mr. Brackman's house? We have the text messages that prove that Miss Becker wanted to go into Mr. Brackman's house and trash him. We have the right body build. We have the right height. We know it was Miss Becker. So ladies and gentlemen of the jury and Your Honor, I hope today that you find the defendant guilty. Thank you, Your Honor.
How much time's been reserved for rebuttal? 2 minutes?
2 minutes exactly, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense closing argument? Proceed when ready.
Good evening, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, co-counsel and opposing counsel. Today, we are here for one reason and one reason alone. The wild goose chase that the prosecution has set with Avery Becker in the center. They will have you believe that revenge is a dish best served cold. But how could someone as warm and caring as Avery Becker want to serve revenge to someone who they find so beloved to them? My name is Lily, and my co-counsel here is here to defend Avery Becker, to prove to you all that she has been wrongfully accused of the murder of Mackenzie Brackman. The burden of proof was not on us, the defense, but on the prosecution. And I urge you to look towards the evidence that was presented today. The investigation that was filled with holes by Detective Markowitz and Kyle Kuzak. The prosecution has tunnel vision, only seeing what they want to see, not the other possibilities. One of their suspects was uninvestigated, Blair Rollins. Avery Becker's fate lies in your hands today, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and we ask that you do what is right for her future. On March 6, 2020, Mackenzie Brackman was tragically killed in his home. And while this happened, Avery Becker was on the search for her missing phone all the way in the Denver Mall. Nowhere near the crime scene, with her best friend. The most evidence that the defense has is evidence of where the defendant's missing phone was. The prosecution called forward 3 witnesses today. First, they called for Detective Jordan Markowitz, who used only the location of Avery Becker's phone to find her, who went off the word of a teenage student who was rivals with Avery Becker and only accepted screenshots when they had the ability to download this information to know for sure what happened. Then they brought forward Alex Cifuentes, a rival of Avery Becker, quick to throw her under the bus, and who, despite all of their courage in sending forward some supposed screen text messages, does not have these text messages have no ground. The color is wrong, and it is unlikely that they are authentic. And finally, you heard from Kyle Kuzak from the prosecution, who only looked at photos of the evidence, who reconstructed a crime scene with evidence that they hadn't seen in person. Today, the defense also brought forward 3 witnesses. First, we brought forward Avery Becker, the star of the Colorado High School mock trial team, who was not guilty of these crimes because the evidence has no support for these claims. Then you heard from Taylor Perkins, who knows Avery Becker, who knows how Avery Becker acts and was with Avery Becker when Mackenzie Brackman was killed. And finally, you heard from Professor Blake Van Owen, an accomplished private investigator who looked at what happened to this case, who looked at how it was rushed, and gave Avery Becker the chance to a fair trial. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I remind you that the burden of proof was not on us, the defense, but on the prosecution, to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Avery Becker murdered Mackenzie Brackman. But Avery Becker did not do this. The evidence is not there. And so I ask you, is there doubt in your mind that Avery Becker committed this? If so, I ask that you find the defendant not guilty and do what is right for her future. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Does the prosecution wish to rebut the defense closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing counsel, Your Honor, we just heard from the defense that we are going off of what one teenager had told us. But what is the defense doing? That's exactly what they're doing. They're going off of the fact that Avery Becker said she's guilty. They're going off the fact that it was one teenager. We have the evidence. We have the proof that it was Avery Becker. And we're not just going off of this one teenager's mind. They're going off of Avery Becker's one teenager of who knows if she's lying or not. Avery Becker vandalized the car. Why do we expect to trust Avery Becker? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today we have met the burden of proof. Today we have met all of the evidence needed to show you guys that it was Avery Becker. And I hope that in your hearts, for the death of Mackenzie Brackman, that you find Miss Becker guilty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. We'll have our scoring panelists submit your ballots, confirm that they've been received. And then we'll offer a few comments and encouraging words as we leave this evening. Mr. Downey, I did not get that error message. I think you hopefully got my ballot. So when our panelists have submitted your ballots and we've heard from Mr. Downey that they've all been received, please everyone bring up your videos, please. Mr. Downey, are we good to go? I've got you muted. Mr. Kay, you submitted your ballot?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hurwitz, you submitted your ballot?
Yes, Judge, and I didn't get any errors, so hopefully it went through.
Okay, great. These are two phenomenal trial attorneys that you had judging you this afternoon, this evening, after their busy days litigating. So I would really like to hear their feedback and encouragement. You all did an amazing job. You really, really did. Mr. Kay?
Thank you, Judge. I was a mock trial coach for about 15 years, and I had a team that won the state championship. And I can tell you guys did a wonderful job. I also want you to know that you have a judge that is perennially one of the highest scoring judges in the state, and she's so you're really lucky to have that judge. And I just think you guys just did a wonderful job, and thank you very much for your time and letting me be part of this. Thanks again.
Mr. Hurwitz?
I would echo what Mr. Kay said, as well as what Judge Billings-Vela had commented. I think you guys all did a really good job. I did some mock trial in law school. This stuff isn't easy. So I think you guys definitely took a really tough fact pattern and presented it very well. And you should all be real proud of your presentations, especially in light of the technical difficulties and last minute hiccups and everything. There's more of that takes place in real practice than you may realize. And I think you guys handled it really, really well. So kudos to all of you.
Absolutely. Your ability to go with the flow when equipment wasn't working, or, co-counsel couldn't be here and taking on extra roles and responsibilities. I hope you're all considering a career in law. Please feel free to come by, when the courthouse opens. I'm always happy to have people in court answer any questions you have. I know it's been a really long day. For those of you that want to be on your way right away, please feel free to. We're happy to answer any specific questions if anyone has any questions or concerns, or ready to call it a long day. All right. Good luck in your future competitions. You guys were really well prepared, professional. It was an absolute pleasure to preside over your trial. Be well.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we really
Bye-bye.
appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to judge and score us.
Well, you're our future hope, right? So we've got to be there and watch your rising stars. So it's our pleasure. Thank you. Good to see you again, Mr. Kay, Mr. Hurwitz. With this pandemic, haven't seen you in a while, so it's been an extra added bonus today. Be well. Thank you, Mr. Downey. Hopefully he's out there in cyber world somewhere. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.